And now, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, welcome to the Consumer Quarterback Show, helping you win in any marketplace, making you a more informed consumer here in Tampa Bay. We like to help you understand your buying decisions, make you more street smart here. Nate Ginter in the house. We're going to talk about Microsoft Activision merger under review by Congress. Of course, Twitter files dropping every day and the FBI corruption and collusion. We're going to talk about that as well as Christmas gifts and cybersecurity. So what to think about during the holiday season. Coming up with Nate Ginter, our tech expert from Vine IT. Fred DeFelice, water quality expert. It's been a little while since we had Fred on the program, so we're going to talk to Fred DeFelice as well in the second half of the show. And we got a feel-good story of the day, a random act of kindness sparked by a family's decade of giving during the holidays. Feel-good story coming up for you here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, and we greatly appreciate all that support the show by reaching out to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Call or text the show hotline, 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com. You can see links there to previous shows and connect with us at consumerqb.com. We've got a hot property listing here at 1991 Orange Court in Dunedin. We've got an open house going on this weekend as well. Check out the details online for that. But this Orange Court Dunedin property is a beautiful home. This is a large property. It is an executive style corner lot cul-de-sac home with a screen lanai. Screen patio around the pool, a beautiful pool, large backyard. Great opportunity right here in Tampa Bay. It's got 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. Great opportunity to own real estate at 1991 Orange Court in Dunedin. And you also have a front porch there, large 3-car garage, and updated kitchen. 1991 Orange Court, $860,000 listing from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. All right, we also have a property here at 1307 Normandy. This is a property that we've got in beautiful Palm Harbor. This is a large corner lot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 2,600 square foot ranch style home, corner lot with water views right here in Tampa Bay. New AC, new floors. Great opportunity close to downtown Palm Harbor and the Gulf Beaches. You can see all of our listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
Yeah, I'm racing my class to those saving our ass overseas.
All right, yeah, a little Cole Swindell. Shout out to our veterans, Nate Ginter in the house. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, always happy to be here, Brandon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming in and dropping some knowledge for us. And yeah, a lot to cover, man. You know, the Twitter files, secret blacklist, and targeting conservatives, and all this good stuff.
Absolutely, and it was really interesting to see Elon Musk's statement because every now and then he's a little autistic. When he comes out with a great zinger, he goes, I bought a social media company, but I got a crime scene.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Which was hilarious.
Isn't it unbelievable, man? I want to jump right into a clip from Kash Patel. He was the one that worked closely with Devin Nunes, who was on the Intelligence Committee under the Paul Ryan regime, which Ryan, of course, is a rhino and would block a lot of the things they were trying to do. But I just heard this today on Bannon's War Room.
We uncovered, and I'm going to give you some good news and then some bad news. What we uncovered was all the corruption at the FBI, at DOJ, at the mainstream media, and the Democratic Party. And I'm glad now that Elon Musk is putting all this stuff out there, but this is why I keep saying all roads lead to Russiagate. It is the same operation that a private enterprise, is running with the FBI and DOJ. And I'm glad so many more people are forced to listen because of the big platform that you and War Room have and Elon has, and are finally forcing people to look at the suppression, the intentional malfeasance, and likely breaking of laws by the folks at Twitter. And here's the thing they have in common with the government gangsters at the FBI that ran Russiagate. They never thought they would get caught. They were so arrogant, they would write it down freely, just like the FBI government gangsters did during Russiagate. And we found the documents. We found the receipts, as you say. And now Taibbi and company are putting out the receipts. But here's the problem, Steve. We know they censored Donald Trump. We know they rigged an election. We know the players, Roth, Vijay Gadda, Dorsey. I haven't seen one email, and I've been challenging them to do this, that shows the communications between the FBI and Twitter had shed. It exists. And if it doesn't exist, I've been calling on media companies like Epoch Times, where I host my show, send FOIAs to FBI. Twitter is not a classified operation. Every meeting every FBI agent had with Twitter and Vijay, Gad, and Roth around these times is documented. Then we will learn the depths of government involvement to break the law and violate free speech.
And that's something I hope is done. I hope they actually do the FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act, and get the government records. Let's get the receipts, and then we can talk about a democracy suppository coming at them.
Well, I think that kind of transparency is absolutely necessary. Whatever side of this you're on, whether you lean right or lean left, it's important, because someday your regime's not going to be in charge, or it's going to be, the candidate that you think can affect some real change is going to be there. So, it's just for the, we always talk about the integrity of the American voting process, and it needs to be above reproach. Well, this is part of keeping it above reproach.
That's right.
You can't sit and just say, hey, we have free and unfettered elections, and, you can't prove differently. Well, if you never look, you're never going to know where the problems are.
Or let me interject real quick. The 51 sign-offs by the supposed intelligence officials and high-level ranking military officials, 51 of them signed off. This Biden laptop is not, the story.
Oh, yeah, and I had a huge problem with that, actually. I was going back and looking at some old Facebook posts I had where I had a real problem with it at the time, because even, some of the more, let's sweep it under the rug, news sources, the story, a laptop like that, if it had just showed up somewhere, somebody said I found it in a bus station, that's one thing. This was a guy saying Hunter Biden came in. He had copies of the receipts that he gave to the news where he said, here's his signature for the deposit with his credit card number.
Yep.
Here are the serial numbers of the devices. Now, they didn't show the actual serial numbers, so you couldn't verify it. But listen, that's 2 hours of work by somebody making a couple of phone calls to verify the validity of it. I'm like, they're not saying that's not true.
Yeah.
They're just saying it can't be verified. And I'm like, listen, I do this for a living.
Yep.
You can call up and verify the validity of anything very, very quickly when it comes to those things. And by the way, the FBI actually has departments in these corporations, in Apple, to do things for criminal investigations, like verify ownership of things.
Wow.
That's the reason they're supposed to exist. So when I saw the coverage, I said something's very wrong here. And for these people that are supposed to be trained intelligence officers, it is either Trump derangement syndrome or it was deliberate. I can't say which. No one knows the heart of another man, but I can tell you it was definitely negligence on their part, for sure. I mean, they shouldn't be. If they're actively working in intelligence, they have demonstrated a complete lack of it at this point.
I think it's an inside job. I think it's just like SBF. They knew, hey, this guy's giving us a lot of money. Let's overlook it. Let's see what happens. Of course, he was just recently arrested, apprehended, and but it's interesting to see now he won't have to testify in front of Congress, or would he at some point? Right? He's under criminal investigation.
So it all depends on the term. Unfortunately, one of the things that happens in these cases, the prosecuting body gets to really determine if he's going to cut a deal. There's no way he's going to plead innocent. So they get to determine what the terms of his allocution, when you say I'm guilty and here's what I did.
Yep.
So how much information he has to disclose, that's all going to be set now by really whoever is the prosecutor in charge, rather than, an open testimony under oath, which is kind of a bummer, but you hope that maybe there's a little integrity in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just joined us, we're talking with Nate Ginter, Vine IT. He's a tech expert with the Consumer Quarterback Show, and he gives us insights in terms of things happening in that tech space. Microsoft Activision merger under review by Congress.
Yeah, so you want to talk about a tale of two cities. Boy, if you run a cryptocurrency exchange, no oversight whatsoever. Microsoft trying to buy the people that make the Call of Duty video games. We got to get Congress involved to make sure this is on the up and up. Complete waste of time. Activision, makes a bunch of popular franchises, and the reality is, the only reason it'll be under review for potential monopolistic practices is are there any other video game publishers out there? Well, if you've ever, put a kid in front of a phone, they've got about 8,000 choices of ways to spend your money. So there's no monopoly there. And, there's also a competing platform to Microsoft for where to buy these things. There's the Apple Store, there's Steam. So the whole thing is just basically a giant grift, or, you know, some politician trying to get some earmark carved out, and also I think maybe a little diversion. There's a lot of stuff out in the news right now that is potentially very damaging to a lot of people that have been entrenched for a long time.
That's right.
You know, oh, there's a $69 billion deal going on. Yeah, that's video games, man.
Video games.
I couldn't care less.
You know what it reminds me of, too, back in the day? Remember Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, steroids?
Oh.
Like, why were they called in front of Congress? Like, why does Congress, you know, it's a baseball game, you know?
Right.
Focus on keeping the Russians at bay, the Chinese at bay. You know, how about Iran?
We're in the middle of a war on terror, supposedly.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but they're going to investigate somebody using steroids or not, and how many home runs they hit.
And thank God steroids are out of professional sports now. Another job well done.
Yes.
By our well-paid public employees.
Yeah, our unbelievable pros up in Washington, D.C., absolutely. And Lance Armstrong got away with it.
It's almost comical when you look back and you're like, how much attention these things capture.
Right.
And then you go, well, you made a huge deal out of it, and you got everything you wanted. And what was the result? Well, you know, nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally nothing.
Who was held accountable? Who was, you know, it's on other issues, right? Who was held accountable? Who went to jail? What about the Clinton emails? What about, you know, nothing happened.
Well, that's one of the things that gives me a little bit of pause as to whether we'll ever get the true story about anything again. I've talked about it previously, but when they were had the 501c3 emails and they had the head of the IRS under direct cross-examination, and she said, "Oh,
Lois
I'm sorry,
Lerner.
I can't give you any." Yeah, Lois Lerner, I can't give you those emails because my computer died.
Yeah,
and you know, I'm like, well, that's, you know, not a factual answer at all, but it's never been countermanded. It's never been refuted.
Right.
You know, as if the government has no responsibility to protect data, and it doesn't work like that either.
The uniparty is the problem. The uniparty. Nate Ginter
absolutely.
here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, tech expert, Vine IT. He can help you with your any tech issues relating to your business or your personal computers. That's what his company does. They can remote in and help you troubleshoot, you know, any of those issues. So we love it when you support the local economy by supporting our show and all of our show partners. We have, you know, 80 different categories of great expert contributors: attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors, tech experts, Second Amendment experts, firearms, you know, all the different defense experts that we have as well. So reach out to the show hotline. We'd love to connect with you and just save our hotline number, because at some point you may need it. Something, you may get a letter showing up at your door. You may be hacked and have issues with your computer, or maybe need to talk to a certain type of an attorney. We've got 5 or 6 different attorneys with different specializations. 813-917-1894, consumerqb.com, 813-917-1894, consumerqb.com. Coming up, more on the Twitter files. I've got another clip I want to play. Also, Christmas gifts and cybersecurity with our tech expert, Nate Ginter, Vine IT, here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Feel-good story of the day, also a random act of kindness sparked by a family's decade of giving during the holidays. We'll be right back here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, everybody, it's the Captain, Matt Bruce, and you're listening to my buddy, Brandon Rhymes, a Consumer Quarterback. Sell, Brandon, sell.
Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, Platinum MVP team, Keller Williams Realty, Nate Ginter in the house, tech expert with Vine IT, local company right here in St. Petersburg, Pinellas County. We got a couple of things we want to get to, the Christmas gifts and cybersecurity. Before we do, I got one more clip I want to play about the Twitter files and what's going on. So this is new Twitter files. Quick clip here for Nate to comment on.
Independent journalists have released new reporting on internal Twitter records over the last several days. The latest installments of the Twitter files revealed that the platform had maintained secret blacklists that targeted conservatives and government critics. The new reporting also showed that Twitter was not convinced former President Trump was in violation of any policies when executives decided to ban him.
Joining us now to give us more detail on the latest Twitter files is Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham. So, Megan, there's a lot of ground to cover here, but can you just hit some of the key points from this latest reporting?
Yes, a massive amount of ground to cover. So just to take the last 3 installments one by one. On Thursday, former New York Times columnist Barry Weiss revealed that Twitter had added secret flags to the accounts of conservative pundits like Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino. as well as to some medical experts who criticized COVID policies, people like Stanford Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who authored the Great Barrington Declaration. So this kept people from seeing their posts, and even in some cases kept them from showing up in Twitter search results.
So think about all the suppression and the lack of growth that they could have seen. Like Charlie Kirk, he's on this channel right before us, about an hour and a half before, or 2 hours before us. I mean, these people that were Dr. McCullough, Dr. What's the other doctor? Robert Malone. I mean, a lot of these people were censored.
Oh, absolutely.
And Twitter, being the tech juggernaut that they were or are, it's just unbelievable that these things are coming out now.
So I actually find it completely believable.
Yeah.
There's as a long time conspiracy theory fan, not a nut, but a fan. A lot of these things have been brewing for years, and so one of the things that taking politics out of it for a second, the real dangerous thing is the medical suppression. And one of the problems that I've had having conversations with people in a variety of arenas these days is the level of confidence that people feel in their opinions on whatever topic based on the fact that everything they're being shown seems to back up what they're saying. Well, there's no legitimate doctors that are coming out and saying something contrary to the public narrative.
Exactly.
That is entirely untrue. The fact is that those people are literally being chopped off at the knees with their ability to reach other people in the same way that the things you're reading are having the opposite done, where they're being artificially boosted. So if you've got two people with the exact same credentials saying two different things, one of them posts a narrative that the people in charge of censorship, because I don't think this is Jack Dorsey directly dictating things. I think this is the department of like-minded people with a single political and worldview and philosophy. They come out and they say, we like what this person says. They make sure that's seen, and that's the narrative that goes around.
Right.
There are counter narratives that do exist and exist on their platform and would gain traction, but don't.
Right.
And we're not talking about hate speech here. Science isn't a field where it is, although it can be politically propagandized, it's one of those things where dissent is supposed to be shown. The whole principle of the scientific method is based on disproving statements. It's, you say this is my theory, and somebody says I think that's wrong, or I have a different theory. And not allowing that free discourse is a real danger.
Yeah.
And I always say, what are you so afraid of people hearing?
Yeah, and you'd also see it. You'd see it with rappers, and you would see it across the spectrum. And people would step out, and they were like, "Wait, no, get back in line here, buddy."
And made to seem crazy by the fact that there's no supporting information from legitimate sources coming out, or people that they can point to and say, "Okay, yes, you're pointing to these doctors. I will point to this doctor and the 100 other people that he's gathered from Stanford University. That quack medical place, Stanford University, that of course is a fringe right-wing institution. I mean, it's hard to get more liberal than Stanford, and they're still cutting them off at the knees. It's hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's what we went through over the last year. Let's jump to the Christmas gifts. What do we need to see? Of course, this time of year, there's a lot of online theft. There's a lot of online fraud. What's our consumer tips there? So
the big thing to watch out for at Christmas time is, obviously people are getting tons of new devices. You're signing up for new accounts for things. So, if you go get that new iPad, this might be the first time you sign up for an Apple account. Or if you get a Google Pad, this might be your first time signing up for a Google account.
Right.
The big takeaway there is make sure, on these, take the extra time. It's only a couple of seconds to add in that two-factor authentication where it's going to text you if you get something. Taking literally it's 15 seconds to set up and get the little code and punch it in. You don't have to do it every time you use the device. It's just when you sign in from somewhere new.
Yeah.
The reason that's such a big deal is, obviously when you first get something, you probably don't have a lot there. But in 5 years, you're going to have personal photos and emails and these other things that are all linked into these accounts. And even if they're not, one of the big three, Microsoft, Google, or Apple accounts, it's going to be things that can link in there and allow to pull information from them.
Yeah.
So make sure you're doing that little step to protect yourself, and make sure it's a Merry Christmas, not just while you're opening the packages, but for years to come, and you don't find your photos and your personal information getting sold on a dark web website somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you just joined us, we're talking with Nate Ginter here. He's our tech expert from Vine IT. He's the chief technology officer over at Vine IT there. Nate Ginter on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Man, what else are you seeing? There's so much to talk about. out there in the tech space? Crypto was a big topic.
Oh, the crypto stuff is always huge, and we get asked about that a lot. But we deal primarily with your small businesses in the Tampa Bay area, and the real thing that we're always constantly being asked about is what about these attacks with ransomware, and the crypto ties into that is that it's used for payments a lot of times. Right. I always know if a client ever asks me about Bitcoin, I go, "What happened? What are you not telling me?" Because sometimes it can be a personal account or something they're sensitive about. But the real takeaways for making sure your business is protective is have a proactive look at it. What is your written plan for protecting yourself? If you don't know what you're doing, it's very hard to make sure that it's working. So so it's a lot of the common sense things that people apply to their business for all manner of risk management, they just fall down on when it comes to IT because they just think it's too confusing. It's not. We make it simple for you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the thing. A lot of people get overwhelmed, and as a business owner these days, you've got social media to contend with.
Right.
You've got all these different, you're still dealing with your own, human resources, hiring, firing, and of course sales and operations, right? And then the tech side comes in, and people just get lost.
Well, it's funny you mentioned those things as being separate, because one of the things that we do is we have kind of a holistic counseling view. Now, some people just want an opinion on what new computer to buy. But, if you're having challenges or you're thinking about trying to restructure, bring in some new technology, maybe replace some of those manual processes or, things like still handling all your human resources stuff in-house, because we have so many different clients across so many different verticals, we're always, finding new solutions to things or, being brought in for the development of that. So, we actually do workflow management consulting as well, which is a big part of what we do, and, can help people. Sometimes they'll come to us and we've been doing it this way for 20 years. You go, well, let me show you what we do, because, we're a small business ourselves.
You're sharing information,
Holy
consulting.
God, that's so much easier. Like, yeah, it is. And, surprisingly cheap.
Online at vineit.com.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Vineit.com. Nate Ginter, tech expert, Consumer Quarterback Show. And coming up, Fred DeFelice, our water quality expert, going to talk about what's in the water, what you're seeing out there, as well as a random act of kindness sparked a family's decade of giving during the holidays. Feel good story of the day coming up as well. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to My Daddy's Show. Please make sure to send him all of your real estate deals and subscribe to the Consumer Quarterback Show podcast on iTunes and Spotify.